Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to go through the entire growing process of my Ironcutter renovation from the summer of 2023. I intended to do more progress videos during the grow-in, I just didn't have enough time to do that. Fortunately, I took a boatload of pictures, and today I'm going to use all of those pictures to kind of walk you through what the process was like for me and to show you what I did, so let's just get right into it. Alright guys, so this is June 3rd, where we left off last. This is the day I put the sprigs down. From this point on, all I'm doing for the next 10 to 14 days is just watering like crazy. And by watering like crazy, I mean I'm watering almost every hour or every couple hours, depending on how hot or sunny it is. I'm not watering for long periods of time. I'm watering for maybe 5 minutes at most per zone. To give you an idea, you're watering almost to the point you're pooling. You don't want to create pools or create any sort of runoff. I'm just giving you an idea of how heavily you are watering, because you want the ground to stay nice and wet. You don't want the sprigs to dry out. And the point of that is because once the sprigs start sending out new roots, you want there to be plenty of water for those roots to start taking up. This is just the same day, June 3rd, to show you what kind of coverage I got with the 200 bushels of sprigs I put down, as well as what the sprigs looked like when they went down. And as another point that this picture shows is just how wet I was trying to keep the ground during that 10 to 14 day period. This is June 7th, so 4 days after the sprigs went down. I was able to notice throughout the entire yard that the sprigs were starting to push out brand new roots. This was extremely encouraging. It also helped me realize that if I were to get any sort of heavy rains, the sprigs would more than likely be able to help hold themselves into place. Fortunately, I didn't have any sort of heavy rains to deal with after the sprigs went down, so I never had any washouts with the sprigs or the sand. This is June 12th, 1 week after the sprigs went down. Not much has changed. If anything, things have browned off a touch. And this can be a little discouraging, I'm not going to lie. It can worry you to a degree. It makes you think that the plant material, that everything's dying and you're failing. But you just got to stick to the guns, keep the water to it, and you'll see in the not too distant future that things are going to green up and start growing in like crazy. So this is June 15th, so we're just shy of 2 weeks after the sprigs went down. At this point in time, I was noticing throughout the lawn that the sprigs were starting to push out brand new green leaf tissue, which was extremely encouraging. This is week 2, June 17th. This is when I started my fertilization program. All I did from here on out for the next 10 weeks is I put down weekly small doses of fertilizer, putting down roughly 1/4 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 with an ammonium sulfate fertilizer that I just picked up from my local hardware store. It's nothing fancy, but from a fertilization standpoint, that's what I did during the growing period. This is week 3, July 24th. Things are greening up a bit. Quite a big difference from a green up between week 2 and 3, which is just really cool to see how much things change in just a week's time. So this is week 4, June 30th. As you can see, things are still greening up and filling in really nice. This part on the hill or slope here lagged behind a little bit, and the parkway lagged behind a little bit. There's still plenty of growth going on. You just can't see it as much. These areas just tend to not hold the water as well. At least up on the slope, it didn't hold the water as well. And the parkway just doesn't get the same kind of coverage with my irrigation system. So in those areas, I had to do some supplemental watering. The other thing I was going to talk about here was how I was handling any of the weeds that I was dealing with. So as a whole, this renovation didn't deal with a ton of weed pressure. I know you can see the yellow nutsedge staring at you right here. And that was probably the most noticeable weed pressure I had, was the yellow nutsedge. I was not overtaken by swarms of weeds. It just wasn't that bad. I attest to there being low weed pressure because this area of the lawn being on a pretty good pre-emergent program from the previous seasons. I know that can help. So because it wasn't that bad, my wife and I were able to hand pick quite a few weeds to keep the weed pressure down to a degree. Plus, I just wasn't in a rush with taking care of the weeds because it wasn't that bad. I knew in the long run, as this Bermuda filled in, it would choke out a ton of weeds. I knew once this part of the lawn got back on a pre-emergent program in the years to come, it would handle any of the weeds. Most of the weeds I was dealing with at this point in time, and I just wasn't in a rush to spray weeds. I didn't want to cause any sort of problems. I didn't want to cause any delays or anything like that, or setbacks. I just kind of took my time because I knew as a whole the weed pressure wasn't too bad. The only post-emergent herbicide I used in this whole renovation was Sedgehammer, and I spot sprayed that about mid-August on all of the Sedgehammer, or all the yellow nut sedge I was dealing with, and I only did one application, and that took care of all the yellow nut sedge. Aside from that, I did not put any other post-emergent herbicide down on this area of the lawn for this renovation. So this is week 5, July 8th. As you can tell, I have started mowing, which was very nice to start tidying up this area, making it look a little bit cleaner. It wasn't the most enjoyable mow, just because there's still quite a few areas that were pretty thin, so you're kicking up a lot of dust and sand. This bottom portion was definitely the most fun, because it kind of gave me an idea of what things were going to look like in the not too distant future. So anyway, just the combination of mowing and fertilizing really started to kick this thing into gear. This is week 6, July 14th. I believe at this time I was able to get my hands on a manual reel mower. It was a 7-blade manual reel mower. I had that set to about 1/4 inch, and that's what I was mowing this whole area from here on out until about the beginning of August, when I was able to buy my first powered reel mower. So this is around week 7, July 20th. I just can't tell you how much things would change in just the week's time during this entire renovation. It was just really cool to watch this thing green up and spread like crazy. This is week 9, August 6th. This is around the time I was able to buy the powered reel mower. I bought a 20-inch 7-blade California trimmer with a split front grooved roller. This thing worked phenomenal. I tried to keep the height of cut around 3/4 of an inch like I had with the manual reel mower, but you get a much truer cut with a powered reel mower just because of the weight of it. A manual reel mower tends to float a little bit more, so the height of cut's not going to be quite as accurate. So when I tried to go for the 3/4 inch height of cut with the powered reel, I was just getting a lot of scalp marks throughout the yard. And so I did raise the height of cut to around an inch or so, and at that point in time, that was the sweet spot for this lawn at that particular time with the powered reel mower. That reminds me, I didn't do any other top dressing with sand on this yard during the renovation. I had spent so much time and money on just getting the renovation going that I just wanted to enjoy the mow and enjoy this yard and let it fill in, that I knew in the coming seasons I'd be able to do more top dressings and get things dialed in a little bit more. So this is just a nice picture to give you some context to see what the height of cut looked like and what things looked like up close. This is week 11, August 19th. At this point in time, we're pretty much filled in. So I would say around the 10 to 11 week point, we're pretty much all grown in. I mean, I have some thin areas. This is probably the last area to get the thickest. But for the most part, this thing is grown in. And all we're doing is fertilizing and mowing and just enjoying this yard. I will say, once the yard got to this point and it was fully grown in, my kids absolutely loved it. The neighborhood kids loved it. It was getting quite a bit of foot traffic from kids playing on it at this point in time. This is week 13, so September 1st. Again, we're still getting some pretty warm temperatures here in St. Louis. I'm still mowing, still getting a lot of clippings off of the yard every time I'm mowing, and the color just is looking great. This is week 15th, so July 17th. Again, we are starting to get some cool temperatures. As you can see, this red maple up here is starting to transition to the red leaves. So temperatures are cooling down, but the color was really maintaining nicely on this Ironcutter, and I was still getting quite a lot of clippings off the yard every time I was mowing. If you're wondering, these utility markers were from when they were running fiber in my neighborhood. Fortunately, they didn't have to run anything in this portion of the yard, so I didn't have to do any sort of repair. This is around the week 16, 17 mark, so September 28th. I think the picture speaks for itself. Things are just looking really good at this point in time, even with some of the cooler temperatures we are still pretty warm here. It's not like we're into fall or anything, but they're definitely not hot summer temperatures at this point in time. So this is October 23rd, and around this time the color started to fade somewhat, and that was because we started to get some pretty unseasonable cold temperatures around this time. Around Halloween, we were in the low 20s and it was extremely windy, and you'll see here in the next picture that after that happened, things shut down really quickly. We generally don't get that cold here that soon here in the St. Louis area. I would say if we were to get more of our normal temperatures during this time of year in the October-November time frame, the Ironcutter would have held its color pretty well to mid-November, maybe all the way to Thanksgiving. This is October 31st, and as you can see, those temperatures that we got that were down in the low 20s really did a number on the Bermuda, and the color's fading pretty quickly here. As you can see, those cold temperatures that we got just a week before really knocked out the Bermuda. There's maybe a touch of green in there if you really dig down through the canopy, but for the most part, it's going dormant. It's checking out, getting ready to go to bed for the winter, saying I'll see you next spring in 2024. This is December 15th. Everything is completely dormant at this point in time. As a whole, this winter was pretty unseasonably warm. There was a stretch of time, though, that where our temperatures were down in the negatives, and we did have some stretch of time as well where we were just above 0 degrees. So it did get some test of cold temperatures here in the St. Louis area during this past winter. I'm not really too concerned about it, though. This cultivar Ironcutter Bermuda has been tested in much more harsh conditions, so I have no concerns about how things are going to green up this coming spring. I'm just really looking forward to it starting to green up so I can get back out on it and mow it and see the kids play on it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit different a style video than I have previously done, but I wanted to make this video to show you guys what the grow-in process looked like for me, as well as the steps I took to help it grow in, and just show you what it looked like in its prime once we were in the middle of summer and all that kind of stuff. I loved how this renovation turned out. I was very lucky that I didn't have any sort of major setbacks. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.